Hey, thank you for checking out my YouTube channel, Grace Life. Um, the purpose of Grace Life is to encourage, to help someone know that God is there for them, God is ready for them, that there is grace in your life, that there is no mistake, there is no error, there is no accident, there is no fault, that God will not love you anymore. Because sometimes we get discouraged in our life, in the wrong that we done, in the mistake we made, and we feel like God is no longer with us, or whatever experience we're in, or the moment and trials and tribulation that try to discourage us from pursuing God. So one of the things I want to do, I always want to be a testimony. My life is a testimony of what God can do, what God can do when you made a mistake, what God can do when you've been disobedient, what God can do when you've been on the other path that were not designed for you by Him. That it's never too late to get back on that path. It's never too late to say, God, please forgive me. Show me the way. Help me. Um, you know, please forgive me for my sin. Give me for my error. Give me understanding and wisdom and discernment on what to do now, on how to get out of the situation, on what you need me to do. Help me to hearken and be obedient. And one of the things I want to kind of get on real quick about, um, it's about domestic violence, going through emotional, verbal, physical abuse in a marriage or a relationship or any kind can be hard. And a lot of time, especially if you are trying to be saved, if you're trying to believe in God, for a person that married, and I'm going to really come from a marriage standpoint because that's what I went through. And let me say this, that women are not the only one being abused in relationship. A man can be abused. Children, of course, are abused in relationship by their parents or loved ones, and also even adults in can experience abuse in a relationship by their parents or people that they still associate with. So it don't necessarily have to be your husband or wife. It can be other people that you have a relationship with, and you have to know the signs and the cues and learn how to set healthy boundaries as needed, or if you do need to cut them out your life. And a lot of, well, not a lot, all the time, this wisdom will come from God on what to do. Um, Once again, like I said, this is something that I want to talk about. It's like I always say, it's in my heart, and it will place there on how to say something that I experienced was in my relationship was, is it the will of God for me to leave? Because in the Bible we know the scripture about divorce, that God grant divorce under fornication, and let it be that if you do divorce, let it be for that nature. And if you were to divorce because of hardening of hearts, that the woman should remain single. And in the Bible you don't find keyword that say, well, don't stay in a marriage if you being abused, if you being emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse. It's so many different ways that abuse comes into a relationship, in a marriage, that you won't find in the Bible that says it in that exact word, that it's okay to leave. And and instead of pretty honest, honestly, I can, my experience in church was a lot of ministers or those that were in position really did not talk about it. And if you went to seek counsel about domestic violence, or what should you do if you are in an unhealthy relationship, the advice was probably you stay and let God work it out, or you stay and do what, for the woman's standpoint, you do what your husband telling to you to do, which was to submit. No, that's what they define submission as. And I'm not saying that's incorrect, but it's in my view and what I experience, it's a one mind track. And let me put this out there in all caps. I would never tell a woman nor a man to stay in an abusive relationship. I can never say that to a person. Never. Because there is a lot that comes out of domestic violence. And we know, number one, it can lead to death, injury that can be permanent, It can lead to emotional and mental loss. It can lead to children suffering. It can lead to financial loss. It can lead to a lot of things. So I can never tell a person to stay in a relationship where there is abuse. I will suggest that you seek God for advice on what to do. If it's your will to stay or go, you need to have God's hand in you, because even leaving is dangerous. That is one of the most high sensitive time to leave. So you do need wisdom, discernment on how to leave in peace, how to leave without being in danger in those situations. So I will always, support that person the best I can, and ask them to always seek God guidance. If we have to pray, fast, that's what we have to do. But I can never encourage someone to stay in a relationship where I know there is abuse and it's evident of it. And that's even in emotional and verbal, because those things carry weight and trauma. And with that being said, because I know I was always looking in the scripture, like what word or what scripture lines up with it's okay to leave, because I wanted God permission to leave, because I didn't want to be disobedient. I didn't want to be defiant. And I couldn't find the answer when I went to a minister. I couldn't find the answer when I read the Bible. So one of the things that, that occurred to me was, what is love? What did God say love is? And how do love look? And not saying that people don't make mistakes, that people are not going to have, faults. Because we all do. We are all with sin. But one thing I had to learn, what is love? And one of the best scriptures in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. And I'm going to read it real quick from the NIV version. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not pride. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoice with truth. It always protects, always trusts. It never fails. Well, I'm sorry. It always protects. It's always trust. It's always hope. It's always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where they acknowledge, it will pass away. So just by reading the first couple lines, we see that love is patient, kind. It does not envy, boast. It does not easily sit in pride. It does not dishonor others. It does not self-seek, easily angered, keep no record of wrongdoing. Just by the first couple of lines, there was abuse, and even narcissism is described as. Because people that abuse, they find a way to dishonor you. If they find a way to hold something over you, they find a way to make their self feel better over you. They're not patient with you. They're not kind to you. They do the complete opposite of what God said love is. And they move on to what God said, what love is not to do. Dishonor. It's self-seeking. It's easily angered. So if someone said, well, I couldn't never find it in the Bible, it's there in 1 Corinthians 13 where God said what is love and what is not love. And if you have to look at your partner and say, am I in an abusive situation? As I say once again, people going to have mistakes and fall short of grace. However, we know there are some telltale signs of abuse. Gaslighting, manipulation, withholding income and money from a person that's supposed to be your spouse or your equal. When they seek to destroy your self-esteem. When they always priding themselves over you. When they push you down in front of others. They'll be, if you have never experienced it, but there are stories out there where people say, well, we've been out to cookouts or public dinners, and my significant other would tell jokes to our friends about my shape size or how I look, there are stories like that. That's emotional and verbal abuse they doing. That's not love. That's destroying that person. It's not protecting them. You are causing, them to self destruct on the inside. So if you are in a relationship and you said, well, my partner line up to be more on the negative side, seek God on what to do. Seek God on the answers. Go before the throne and petition Him for wisdom, insight, and knowledge on what to pray about. If you need to leave, stay, or go. But once again, I would say this: I never advocate for a person to stay in a relationship that is unhealthy with domestic violence abuse. And it's not only physical, but it can deal with a whole array of stuff, from spiritual abuse, emotional, verbal, mental abuse, economic abuse. It's so much out there about abuse that people don't talk about, especially in the church. But it needs to be talked about in the church, because they're where we first encounter God and love and marriage. But you don't know nothing because it's not being talked about. Someone have to talk about it. Someone have to release people in unhealthy relationships. And so one of the steps is finding God permission, finding God response. And it's in the Bible, but just not in the way that we'll look for. God described it in what He said love is and how it should look. If you need help, please reach out to your nearest crisis line. National Domestic Violence Hotline is also out there. Also, there are plenty of advocate groups to contact. You can Google, search social media. Even if you have to contact me online, please reach out and I'll do what I can to help you find resources. But please know that you don't have to stay in a relationship that is imminent danger to your life, threatening your life. It's help out there, it's resources out there. God does not apply abuse. God did not put your husband or a person of power over you to beat you down physically, to beat you down emotionally, to beat you down mentally. That is not God. That's not the will of God. That is not Him. God is love. God is peace. God is patient. God is kind. God is grace. He's not that. And so you must, ask God for the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge on what to do, how to do it, and how to handle that situation. So I hope this message helps someone, bless someone. If you need to reach out, please reach out. Please reach out to help. And until we meet again, please walk in love, live by faith, and grow in grace.